So AMC just released an official, well, a teaser, you could say, for the new Walking Dead show. For those of you unaware, AMC has now 3 shows. We've got The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, and now an untitled 3rd show, and we got our first sneak peek at that, and what it's basically going to be about. So from watching this feels like what Scott Gimple, who was the previous showrunner for The Walking Dead, showed AMC about the potential ability of a 3rd show. So we get like artwork here of scenes, and like a basic premise about how it will be different. So the beginning of this teaser is really just showing the characters. We get the main character here. There's no names associated with them just yet. So they're doing that thing again where you have every actor say a little bit of a sentence, which is something I really wish studios would stop doing. So basically they're just saying, what if you were in a safe place and you moved out into a new world to grow up, to become more strong? Basically. So besides the cast, which is basically what you would expect, the interesting stuff comes at the end of the teaser, sort of, where we get to see artwork of, I don't know, I guess the storyline. We might actually see this translated. So the very first scene here is of the airliner, and it's being either shot down by a fighter jet, or the fighter jet is crashing into the airliner. It's kind of hard to make out what's going on here. My bet's on it crashing into the airliner, because when a fighter jet shoots down something, generally speaking, you don't want to ride right into the wreckage. The series is definitely going to start in the past, and then we're going to skip into the future, and then we get a message that other things are happening in the Walking Dead universe that you don't know about. The world is a very big place, and The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead are focused on a very tiny area. I'm going to keep my opinion rather reserved on this show because I just don't know how you can have 3 shows about The Walking Dead, like a zombie apocalypse. You know, every show I feel like is going to devolve into the same show, but we'll see how this is different. So far, it looks good. But this artwork right here is very interesting. This is right after the airplane crashes. We can see the passenger on the right is still, well, alive, you know, in dead form. And once it skips to the next artwork, it's clearly been put out of its misery. And we get one of the main characters still alive after this wreckage. The airplane seemed to have crashed into a neighborhood, setting everything on fire. And time skipped 10 years into the future, roughly around that, I would say. And we can see nature is taking over. There's not a lot we can see here except that the artwork itself looks very, very interesting. One thing I also noticed is that they didn't remove the walker, kind of showing how inexperienced these new fighters are going to be. Even when they're older, they just leave the walkers there. Even though this is a safe home, like they were saying in the beginning of this teaser, they didn't really make it a proper home where you would remove the dead and kind of try to live a proper, stable life like in the past. This show could focus on making a new kind of world. A world that's not like the one that was before, because these kids might not remember how that world really was. So this artwork right here shows the inside of the airplane again. We can see the airplane seats to the bottom left. All the walkers are entangled with cords. These could all be opening shots from the first episode. And then everything is becoming overgrown in the very next artwork. There's a very big sense of growth and development from a kid to an adult in this show, from what I'm getting, and from what this artwork is presenting, also from the dialogue in the very beginning. And here we see our main cast. They're on a bridge in a city, which is interesting. Now, The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead have both taken place in a city in the beginning, and then they gradually move toward a forest, you know, in the middle of nowhere. And that's what I mean by all the shows devolving into the same thing. They all end up in a forest because it's very inexpensive to shoot stuff there, and it's like a more of a permanent location. You don't have to recreate sets. But I really hope this show does take place, at least a good portion of it, in a city. The city is interesting because it's infested with dead, and if these kids have found a way to survive there as opposed to Rick's group, that would be very, very cool. I'd like to see that. I also hope these weapons make it into the show. They're very creative, I guess. You can see one kid has a spear, other one has a very weird like table leg or a bat, then a spear, and it looks like a makeshift bat with like barbed wire at the end. From the premise of the show, one of these kids is probably going to become a villain. You know, that's the whole thing with the growth. People become heroes and villains. So it's either going to be the large brute because he's the outcast of the group. That's his character. And he's probably going to be a villain. I'm just saying that now. That's my prediction. So we get another shot of the airplane here. Everyone has their seatbelts on. They're upside down, hanging. This is probably pre-time skip, but the walkers don't die, so it doesn't need to be. So next we get a Jedi for some reason. But it's someone in a robe, and they're looking at the artwork from before. It looks like the same artwork where the guy is entangled. I'll actually go back to it, and you can see the similarity there. So this could be the very last thing they see before they move on and leave their home. They have spent a very long time in that neighborhood, I would assume. It's unknown what they're looking for. They could just be looking for a different world, but it's unnatural to just kind of up and leave it unless there was a very good reason to do so. And that's pretty much what we get for this teaser. In general, it does look like it is different, and the tone will be different from The Walking Dead. Honestly, my only worry right now is that either the actors aren't very good because they're younger, and some of them haven't been in a whole lot of movies, and that the showrunners decide to put a color tone over everything. For those of you that don't know, Fear the Walking Dead has a yellow tone, or at least it did initially for the majority of the show. It was yellow, and it kind of gave off a CSI Miami kind of feel. It was just a bit too much, I'd say. And now everything is gray and like dark and desaturated and kind of hard to watch unless you really try to overlook it. But for me, it's distracting a little bit, especially when you're watching Walking Dead side by side. Walking Dead does adjust their lighting, but it doesn't colorize it so heavily. So my worry is that this show is going to be like purple, or it's going to be like green, some kind of strange color. I just want them to do it more normally. But at the same time, tonally and through their writing, give us something we haven't seen before. But also, before I close this video off, you don't really get the feel of the characters from what they actually look like. From the artist representation of them, you kind of get that this kid right here is going to be like a Negan sort of person, like a Fonzie kind of bully. He's probably going to be picking on the big brute. It's going to be a very strange dynamic. That's my prediction. But all in all, this does look very promising. I'm very excited for the show. It's coming out, I think, in April 2020, but I guess don't take my word on that. I don't really know. And also, its first season is only going to have 10 episodes, which is, I think, very good, because you don't want a 16 episode part for the first season. My logic is the less episodes you got, it's just not going to be very stretched out. That's pretty much it. But yeah, all in all, this is looking promising. I've got my worries, of course, because Fear the Walking Dead basically had to be rebooted on like season 4, season 5. Into a completely different show. The main cast that you were following is pretty much all dead except for one person, and now the entire tone of the show is different. Their direction of the show is different. There's different showrunners. But what do you think about this new Walking Dead show? Have you watched The Walking Dead? I know it's kind of died in popularity recently, but if you watched Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, what do you think about this new show? Do you have hopes for it? What are your worries? Make sure you drop a like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.